Now, this BA class is, of course, you know, our company and everything. There's just some contact information for you all if you need it. It will be posted in the class portal, so you can access it. And in a little bit, I'll show you how to access the class portal and everything. And I did create accounts for you. You should have gotten emails for that to, you know, log in for the first time and, you know, set up your password and something like that. If you haven't, then let me know. I will, you know, set up a temporary password and send you the password and the login details so you can log into the portal. Now, the portal doesn't have everything for the class right from day one. You know, we keep on posting stuff as we move forward, so you know you're not bogged down with too much stuff right from the beginning. Okay, and then you can also get used to the portal. Now, okay, a few pointers. As a general rule, as a professional, you know, especially as an IT professional, given that you know you all don't have any, well, I think Leepika, you have some background in IT. If I remember correctly, I think as a QA. But anyways, as an IT professional, like I was saying, it's always good practice to keep a notebook. You know, maybe start with a fresh new notebook, and always make notes. So that way, you know, you can always go back and refer to your notebook and, you know, refresh your memory. Now, that's not just for this class though. Okay, in general, when you go out and work in the field, at office, whatever, you know, there might be stuff you might want to note down, or, you know, when you're giving interviews, there might be stuff which you come across which maybe is not covered in this class or you haven't read. So it's always good to keep notes. It always helps. Okay, and that, I mean, the notes is going to help you during interviews as well. Other than that, Google and YouTube, they're your best friends. Okay, anything you can pretty much find on either Google or YouTube. Okay. And there's some other sources where you can find, but you know, Google can be a starting point. So you know, always whenever you're stuck, you know, if you can't reach me, or you know, stuck at work or anything else, Google or YouTube is your best friend. Okay. There might be homework. I give homework sometimes. I don't. One thing I ask all of my students to do is whatever we are covering in class, go through it every day if possible. I mean, of course, like if I do a class today, try and go through it maybe today or tomorrow. So you revise the stuff which we have covered. That way, it goes in your head, you know, because when you're watching the class, you know, you might get distracted. So it's always good to revisit. Okay. The other reason why I'm saying that is because when you go out in the field, okay, when you go out as a professional, you want to be able to speak in a professional manner. I mean, obviously your communication skills are very good. You can speak English and everything. That's fine. But when you go out in the professional world as an IT professional, you need to be able to speak in terminology or words or keywords which are used in the industry. You don't want to just use general terms. So that's why when we go into the class, you know, try to pay attention to the terminologies and try and remember them. Okay. Okay, you can ask questions. Of course, you are muted, but you know, type it in the text window. I mean, chat window, or you know, email me, and I can answer them later, whatever. There's nothing like a dumb question. Okay, every question is valid. You know, if you don't understand, if you don't know, that's perfectly fine. You know, I completely understand that you may not know it. Okay, so that's perfectly fine. I will, of course, post whatever slide notes we cover in class. There's extra resources which will be shared through the portal or email. Mostly, I'll try to do it through the portal so that way, you know, you have everything in one place and you don't lose it in your email, because nowadays everybody has so much email that you get lost in it. Okay, and I will provide links to trial versions of the software and everything, and I'll also help you if you need to install the software, but if you cannot do it on your own. Okay, ideally it's preferable that you can do it, so that's the best way to go about it. Okay, having said that, let's move forward. Now, this is just a brief course contents of this class. It's not you know, in too much detail. It's very brief. So just to give you an idea what all we'll cover, there's some topics here. I would recommend if some extra reading other than the topics we will cover. In fact, you know, I tell all my students to study more other than what I've taught. You know, try to learn new things, try to learn other stuff which they don't already know or which might be related to the work they're going to do. Okay. Now, in order for you to succeed, it's very important that you work hard. Okay. I can spoon feed you, and you can learn as much from me. But let me put it another way. I can teach you how to walk, but running is up to you. Okay. So some other stuff which I would want you to learn if you don't already know it. Okay, I mean, I'm sure you probably know what's an operating system, and you're able to use Windows and stuff like that. That's perfectly fine. If you don't, just get your way around Windows. At least you're familiar with how to use Windows generally, the internet generally, how to send emails, attachments, general stuff like that. I think both of you all are pretty aware of those things. Some other stuff like what is a URL. If you don't use Excel, get familiar with Excel, Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint. If you have Outlook, I mean, I'm not sure if you will have Outlook because you're not in a business setting. But if you do have Outlook, get familiar with it, because in the professional world, they're not going to use Yahoo Mail or Gmail or Hotmail. Okay, they're gonna, and I'm not talking about Outlook.com online. I'm talking about Microsoft Outlook. I haven't quite yet seen Outlook.com. It might be similar to how Outlook is in reality, but I have no idea about that. I can check and let you know. It's an email client. I can show it to you if you want to see it in one of the classes. I think you must have seen Excel, Word, PowerPoint, so you should be cool with that. So if not, just get familiar with it, how you can do some stuff around, because you'll be using a lot of them when you go to work. Okay. All right. Let me get this out of the way. Now let me show you how to get to the portal. Okay, let me see if you have typed anything yet. Okay, nothing yet. Okay. All right. Let's open the portal. And I'm going to log in as a student so you can see what you see. And now this is the URL, training.kansheinfotech.com. Okay. And you should have gotten an email. If you haven't, with your and it's associated with your email address. So all you need to do is go through that email and then follow the instructions in that email and create a password and stuff. So I just created a student login here. So okay, let me go back. So when you open the website, this is where you come up. On the top right, you will see a login screen. Okay, login link. Just click on the login. Then you have your username and password. Okay, now you've already have been set up, so you don't need to go through the create new account and everything. Anyways, even if you do that, you won't have class access because I have to give you class access. So use your access provided to you. If you cannot use it, contact me. I'll get you set up properly. Now I'm going to log in as student so you can see what you're going to see when you log in. So when you log in, okay. Now this is how you come in. You're inside the portal. You will see your course right here. Okay, that's the course you're connected in. There's some links over here where you can go to your home section. Okay, you can click on that, and this is your course. And there's some other stuff here. Okay, get familiar with the portal. There's not a whole lot going on in your profile or the home section. You can go ahead and see your profile or whatever. Okay, and then whatever badges and etc. I give you. Okay, anyways, let's go back to your courses. Okay, and then we go to business analyst, and you can go from anywhere. You can go from the home section as well, from here, or you can click on there, my courses, and go from there. That's fine. Or you can go to my home and go from there to your course. Okay, so anyways, and of course, the courses has a list of other courses we have, but you don't need to worry about that at the moment. You're not assigned any other course. So just go to the business analyst section. That's your class. And when you go in class, in the top section over here, where I'm moving the mouse, you see class material and resources. There's a section called glossary. Okay, you can go in there, and there's a bunch of different glossary in there. There's a lot of them, about 6 pages right now. We'll keep on adding more as we keep going forward, and you can also add on your own. If you think there's something missing, you can also add on your own. Just click on add a new entry, and just add it. You don't need any approval for it, so just feel free if you want to. Now let's go back. The useful links section has some useful links. Okay, this is the links to some online stuff which might be helpful for you. This is a very good site, requirements.com. You might want to go there. IIBA is the International Institution of Business Analysis, and they do certification for business analysis, and also they have a BABA guide. You can buy it if you want. I do have the previous version of the copy. I can share it with you if you want. Of course, on an unofficial level, because I'm not supposed to be distributing it. And of course, there's a guidebook. This is also a glossary, another glossary. You can go online. This is a pretty decent glossary. Okay, now underneath that, you will see your first class. And when you click on that, you go in, it will show you the content of the class. Now, this link here is actually this conference, this video conference going on right now. Later, when we are done, whatever material is related to the class will come, for each class will come under each, when you click on it, you should be able to see it. So for example, if you go in class 1, after the class is done and once I post the material for the first class will be available in this section. Okay, this conference is of course going to expire, so that link is still going to be there, but the other stuff is going to come under it. Okay, and as we keep moving forward, all this other stuff where it says not available right now, you will start seeing class 2, class 3, and stuff like that. Okay, so fair enough. I hope you have got a good hang of the class as of, the portal, class portal right now. And as we keep moving forward, there'll be other stuff added to the portal so you can access it. All right, let me see in the chat window. Do you all have any questions as far as the portal is concerned? You can type in the chat window because you're muted. Okay, Aldik? Okay, I think he's also good. Okay, fair enough. So let's move forward. Let me close this out. All right. Now, all right. So we'll start with what a business is. I mean, of course, you all probably understand what a business is. Well, business is anything, when somebody's trying to make something, sell something, maybe a product, maybe a service, and obviously is for some kind of monetary benefit. I mean, of course, in which case this is usually money or revenue. Now, business could also be like, things which are done for the business, right? Like work, okay? And it could be activities which are done for the business. So business can be referred to a few different things, okay? Now, as far as a BA is concerned, you'll basically be working for a corporation or a business, obviously, because you're a business analyst, okay? Now, a corporation is basically an entity. You can regard it as an individual, okay, as per legal terms if you want to talk about it. Corporation is basically, it's a business basically. It could be a non-profit business. It could be a for-profit business. For example, a profit business could be, let's say, Walmart or Microsoft or Apple or any store like where you buy clothes from, Aeropostale or whatever. Okay, so anything which is there in business or doing some kind of activity, whether it's goods or services, they are a for-profit corporation. Now, anything which is not for profit, they do generate money. Okay, so don't get me wrong. It's not that they don't make money. They do make money, but the purpose of making that money is not for profit purpose. It's for purposes of providing the goods or services. Okay. And examples of these may be like, for example, Red Cross, Goodwill stores. Pretty much most of the universities, state universities, not private universities, state universities like, let's say, for example, University of Houston or University of Texas or other state universities, schools for that matter, public schools, hospitals, they are pretty much all, and I'm not talking about private hospitals, I'm talking about state-run. So even private are most of the time non-profit actually. So those institutions or organizations don't actually make any money in terms of for profit. They do make money, but that's used for the purposes of providing the goods and service. Okay, and basically a corporation is just a legal way to register for purposes of tax filings and being recognized as an entity, as an individual, because you can go and do business as an individual, but when you're a group of people, or when you're a big company, you want to be represented. The whole company or the whole group needs to be represented as one, and in legal terms, that's a corporation. All right. Okay, let's move on. Now, each company or corporation will obviously have various departments. There'll be sales, there'll be marketing, there'll be HR, there'll be purchasing, there'll be customer service, stuff like that. So there'll be different departments, and there's a good reason to have departments, because obviously you cannot be giving all the work to maybe one person, or maybe if you have, let's say, 5 employees, they all cannot be doing the same thing. There'll be a lot of chaos and confusion and misunderstanding. There won't be much of efficiency either. So to get that efficiency, to have some kind of order, obviously you have different departments handling different tasks within the organization. Okay. And obviously at the end of the day, the idea is to generate revenue, okay, for the stakeholders. Now, there could be 2 different types of departments, and you can think of this as business terminology. So you remember this: revenue generating departments and cost incurring departments. Okay. Revenue generating departments are those which basically generate some sort of revenue, like sales or customer service or retention or marketing. Basically, departments which are responsible for creating business, okay, for generating business, for bringing in revenue. Okay. Now, cost incurring departments are those which are basically not technically generating any revenue. Okay, they're never really generating revenue. For example, HR. Okay, HR is doing payroll or hiring new people, or if people leave, then they're doing exit interviews and stuff like that. Facilities, for example, like your office furniture, your hardware, your software, your IT department, maybe your janitorial services. All those things are basically, excuse me, are basically departments which support your sales, your customer service. I mean, basically your revenue generating departments, but they don't necessarily generate any revenue. Okay, they're just there to support, because without them, obviously, the business will have a hard time, uh, functioning smoothly. Because obviously, let's say if you have computers and they're not working, and you don't have an IT department taking care of issues with that, then obviously your sales or customer service won't be able to use their computers or their phones or something else. Okay, so you need those, and you need the revenue generating departments. Okay, so there's 2 basic type of departments: revenue generating and cost incurring. Now, this is generally a structure of a company. Okay, this is a hierarchical organizational structure. There are different types of structure. So this is just an example to give you an idea of how normally a company or a corporation is generally organized. At the top, you see the CEO. The CEO is basically, it's the chief executive officer. He's like the chairman or the president, or the guy at the top. Okay. Now, a lot of times the CEO may also be reporting to a board or a board of directors, which will basically be above the CEO over here. Okay. Now, that's not relevant in this conversation right now, so we're not going to discuss the board of directors. So the CEO is at the top. Below the CEO are all the other executive functions. For example, there's a vice president for engineering, or president. There's a marketing vice president or president. Same way, there's an IT, VP or CIO is a chief information officer, or CTO is a chief technology officer. There's a research and development VP. There's a finance VP, okay, or a CFO, which is a chief financial officer. Oops, let me go back. Accident. Okay. So, and then of course, each department will have their own separate hierarchy, and of course, given this limited amount of space over here, I cannot include everything. So we're just kind of covering the IT section, the IT CIO, CTO, and we're going underneath that. But like I said, each department will have their own hierarchy of executives, individuals, staff working for them, performing different functions at different levels. Okay. Okay. Now, as far as the CIO or CTO is concerned, underneath him you may have the director and the PMO stands for Project Management Office. Then there may be a development director who is responsible for whatever software or so application is being developed. The director PMO is responsible for the project management. Okay. Now, director NT services, director of business analysis, director of quality assurance, QA. Okay. Now, again, these will have their own hierarchy and so on. So under the director BA, you will probably have maybe some more levels of executives, like for example, depending on how the business is covered and what departments there are. There may be more than one. There may be one, maybe two, three, four, five different senior level, executive level managers over here, or maybe not. It really depends from company to company. The structure may vary. So let's say in this case we have the senior manager for commercial operations. Then we have the senior manager products and pricing, and then we have the senior manager infrastructure. And again, they will have their own hierarchy. Under the senior manager, let's say commercial operations, now we have two BA managers. One is for the data store, who is responsible for all the data which is coming to the company, and how they're managing data and storing and everything. And there's a BA manager for reporting. And again, under the BA manager, we have business analysts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this is just an illustration. This is just an idea. There may be just one BA. There may be 10 BAs. It really depends from company to company. And the structure may be different depending on not just the size of the corporation, but also the level of the project or the level of work involved, or it may be based on departments as well. So there are different ways this structure can change. All right, let's move forward. Now, this is just to give you an example of what I just told you. This is the organizational structure for just the US region. This is for Baker Hughes. Okay, I'm sure you might be familiar with Baker Hughes out here in Houston. They have a huge office with a lot of employees. This is just one of their segments, business segments. And if you see here, they have all these different departments. Okay, finance, HSE, IT, HR, legal, marketing, etc. And and if you look underneath this main segment, they have all these other departments. They have sales, they have drilling fluids, they have central lift, they have oil tools, they have Atlas, and underneath that again they have other departments. So basically that's how the hierarchy works. There may be different business divisions doing different things. So this is just to give you an idea how the structure for business can be. Now this is more on the technical side. We're gonna mostly concentrate on the IT side. Oh, and just to tell you that when we're talking about business analyst, we're talking about IT business analyst. We're not talking about a general business analyst, or there may be different business analysts. Okay, business analyst can be for the business process as well. Okay, for handling the business side of the corporation to increase the sales and stuff like that. So you are not going to be that. You are mostly going to be on the IT side, but you may have to understand some of the work they're doing. You may have to interact with engineers, and you have to. Okay, now further drilling down and simplifying it, and just let's say going to the IT section. So under the CEO, you have now the BA manager, the development manager, and the QA manager. Okay, now we are just talking about IT here. Okay, and for each of these, you may have multiple products or services. So basically, there may be more than one project, and of course, since most of the corporations, For example, Shell, BP, Wells Fargo, or Walmart, or anybody, they have so many projects going on at the same time. It's not just that they're doing one project at a time. So you may be working on, one project or one product. You may be working on more than one project or product. Okay, and obviously for each product or project, there'll be a product manager, and then there'll be a business analyst, and there'll be a whole team, okay, of developers and testers. Now, as far as the project is concerned, there are 5 main roles in a team who you will be working with. Okay, you will be working with managers, basically mostly the project manager. Okay, you will be the business analyst. Okay, then there'll be architects, developers, and testers. Now, every time there's an IT project, whether this is a software, it's a new product, let's say Microsoft Office Word or Excel or Internet Explorer or Mozilla Firefox or whatever, whether it's a for-profit or non-profit is irrelevant. But every time when there's a product, there'll be a team, and at the same time there may be a service. Okay, for example, you go online and you log into some portal, let's say your bank or whatever, and you're able to access your account and print out statements and all. So technically, even though it's a software, it's a service they are providing online. So even for those, you will have a team, and mostly the team comprises the people you'll be working with will be the managers, the architects, developers, and testers. Okay, the developers do the developing of the software or whatever is going on in the background, and that may include, of course, database guys and everybody else. And testers do the testing. All right. So this is generally how the project is. You will have a bunch of people associated with the project. Okay. Now over here you see a sponsor. Now sponsor, who is a sponsor? Now, when there's a new project in a company, when there's a new product or service in a company, how does it come to be? Well, somebody inside management, somebody inside executive branch who is responsible for a certain section sponsors a project. Okay, now it may be a small thing like adding functionality to existing functionality, or it may be a big project like a total revamp of let's say the whole ATM software, for example. Okay, total revamp, for example. So who is going to sponsor it? So the person who is where's the money coming from? Who's going to pay for it? Now, yes, obviously, let's say in this example, let's say for example, Wells Fargo suddenly decides that by next year they will upgrade the software and it will be totally brand new software on their ATMs. Who's going to pay for it? The software will belong to Wells Fargo, but within Wells Fargo, there will be an executive manager at a senior level who, from his budget or her budget, will basically say, okay, I want this done, I want this to be taken care of, and this is going from my budget. So he is the sponsor. Without a sponsor, the project's not going nowhere. Okay, so you do need a sponsor. Okay, so that's who the sponsor is. This is a technical term. And once the sponsor okays it, then you will have a project management team and a project manager and other project team members like the developers and the testers and everybody else. Okay, now there will be other people who you may be interacting with. Okay, so those are the other people: stakeholders, portfolio manager, program manager. There'll be a project management office. Then you might be interacting with functional managers, operations management, vendors, business partners, customers. Now, every time there's a project, I mean, obviously it's targeting something, right? Now, it may be for an internal lead or it may be for an external lead. So who's the stakeholder? Stakeholders is a bunch of people who have some, kind of connection or some interest with the project. Okay, and now there could be different people who may have interest in the project or relation with the project. Who are the functional managers? The functional managers are people who are basically managing different functions of the company. Okay, for example, sales or marketing. So every function, there'll be a functional manager. Okay, you may be interacting with vendors or business partners. You may be directly interacting with customers or users, or in sometimes the customer user might be another corporation or another company. It may not necessarily be an individual. It doesn't have to be, products can be business to business or business to consumer. Okay, so either B2B or B2C. All right, let's move on. Now, once you have the project manager underneath, then you will have all these other people. Okay, now this is just an idea. I mean, the number of people might be less, might be more. There might be more of each person. Like, for example, let's say in case of business analyst, there might be one business analyst, there might be two, there might be five. Okay, same way, there's other people who will be associated with the project. There'll be a change manager, quality manager, testers, developers, designers, solution architects, SMEs. So there's different roles in the project. Okay, and you will basically be interacting with the whole team. So this is where you are basically, you're kind of the center of attraction. Now, one thing I'd like to say that a lot of people think that the BA's job is to just talk. Yes, to quite an extent that is true, but that's not necessarily your role. You're doing a lot of other things, and we will cover that as we move on. But yes, you do need to have good communication skills because you are basically, as a business analyst, communicating with pretty much the entire team. Okay, it's like a full circle. You're talking to the sponsor, you're talking to the project manager, you're talking to the solution architects, you're talking to the designers, developers, testers, the trainers, the analysts. So you basically interacting with everyone. You are basically the bridge or the glue for the project, right? So what is business analysis? Well, business analysis is identifying the needs of the business. Now, when there's an IT project, obviously, let's say the sponsor says, I want this done. Once he's said that and he's approved the budget and everything, it's not as simple as that you just start making stuff the next day. You just go to Walmart or whatever, some website and download some stuff and stuff. No, you have to identify as a business analyst what needs to be done, what exactly we are trying to achieve here. Okay, what is the goal? Okay, so that needs a lot of research, a lot of learning about the product, because obviously you've not been working for these corporations, right? So you need to understand their business, you need to understand what they're trying to achieve, you need to understand what the competition is doing, and basically based on your research and learning, you come up with what exactly you're trying to do. So basically the need or the requirement of the business. Okay, that's what you're doing. And based on what you have researched, you are kind of going to develop a strategy and suggest, okay, this is how we're going to design, this is how we're going to develop the software. Now, why we're doing this? Okay, now let me just say, okay, let's say we are making a new software for an ATM. Okay, now if we are doing that, the company wants to do that, and you're the business analyst, so obviously you want to see what needs to be done, right? So let's just say, for example, when you go to the ATM and you insert your card, then you insert your PIN, then you have a bunch of different options you get, withdraw, deposit, whatever. So if as an analyst, if you're not aware what functions need to be performed at the ATM, let's say you had no idea, you've never used an ATM, you don't know what an ATM looks like, what the software is supposed to be, how you're going to do that? So you need to, that's why, understand what all things need to be done. Okay, so that's the idea, because let's say you start doing without knowing anything, and then there's no login option. You put the card, but where do you put the PIN, or how do you identify the customer? So there's stuff that needs to be done. So all of that is basically how you start setting up the requirements. Okay, now of course you have to look at the business rivals and competition and see where they are, what they're doing, and be competent enough. And there may be other stuff you might be doing, like identifying the strengths and weaknesses in the business, collecting data and stuff like that. You're not a data analyst. There are some business analysts who do data analysis as well, but that's a little bit different area of work. Okay. There's different types of analysis. You could be doing strategy planning. You could be doing business model analysis. You could be doing process design or process analysis. You could be doing system analysis based on the project basically, because the project might be different. It might be, let's say, um, maybe a software, maybe a mobile application, maybe some changes in the way how things are done. So that's process. So you are looking at a business process design. Okay. Typical deliverables are basically what you will be providing to the managers and the team and stuff like that. Business requirements, functional requirements, non-functional requirements, processes, either as is or to be, and a business case, which covers the risk and return to the stakeholders. Now, business requirements is obviously what they're trying to do, and there'll be functional and non-functional requirements related to that. Now, functional requirements are the requirements which basically have, are related to performing some sort of function or, some kind of end result. Okay. Non-functional requirements are basically mostly environmental requirements or requirements which basically support the functional, but technically they cannot be really defined as in, let me say it in a different way. Let's say, for example, you need Pentium or Celeron or whatever processor you need. That is a non-functional requirement. Or you need a certain kind of software to be running your application. So those are the non-functional requirements. There will be functional requirements. So that's the difference, and the definition will be out in the glossary section. You can go and see in there for some of these things. If it's not there, we'll go on adding as we keep going forward. As is processes is the process which they are basically the way they are being done currently, and to be processes are basically how the process needs to be done in future down the line. And basically that's represented by flowcharts. If you don't know what a flowchart is, you can Google it. It's basically a pictorial representation of the process from the start to the end. And of course, we will be covering Visio down the line, so we will also be covering flowcharts over there. So the business case covers the strategic plan for whatever project you're doing and what risks it's going to have and what returns it will be. Okay, I think somebody's. Non-functional can also be categorized in terms of performance of the software. Possibly yes, to answer you, because non-functional is basically not really defining any functionality. It's all the environmental stuff. So performance could be an environmental variable. Yes. And I guess you're probably coming from performance testing background. Okay. Anyways, let's move forward. So who's the business analyst? Basically, the business analyst is somebody who basically learns about the business, documents the business processes, assesses the business model, and then develops a solution based on the requirements. Okay. Now, when I'm saying develops a solution, that doesn't mean that the business analyst is a developer. He's basically the person who identifies the needs and a solution to solve the need. Okay, and the business analyst is basically like a connection or a bridge between the different departments within the business. Now, between IT, and when I'm saying that, I'm saying between IT and the other business segment. Let's say there's an application being developed for sales. So the analyst is going to be basically working with the sales department and IT. Let's say if it's an engineering application, let's say for drilling, then the analyst may be working with drilling engineers and drilling experts, and maybe environmental engineers, maybe some other type of engineers, and IT. So the business analyst is basically the person who's going to be the connection between IT and business, because he's the one who's going to basically document and identify how work needs to be done. Okay. All right. Normally, a business analyst is needs to have a degree in computers or business, like an MBA or a bachelor's in business administration. And of course, if you are going in a specific domain, for example, healthcare or biotech, you might need a degree in that area. It's not really necessarily required because a lot of times they will accept experience or knowledge in lieu of your degree. So you don't necessarily have to have the same degree. You might have something different. You don't necessarily have to have an IT background to be a BA. I mean, you can go in as a junior BA. It's tough though, but anyways, we'll talk about that as when we work on your resume. All right. Now, why do we need a BA? Why can't somebody else do the work which BA is doing? Why do we need to have an extra person to, why can't the engineer just talk directly to the IT department? And why can't, maybe the IT department just work on their own or whatever? Well, that's not exactly how it works, and it probably won't be efficient either, because obviously these engineers or other departments are busy doing what they do. They have their own function. They're not there to sit down with IT and explain to them in detail whatever needs to be done, and then find a fix if there's an issue or whatever. That's why we need a BA. The BA basically does all those things. He communicates basically to the IT department what needs to be done, because these other departments have other things to do. He does communicate with them to understand the business, but that's pretty much it. The other job of a BA is basically to try and get the requirements captured, the scope of the project captured within the project. Now, the project may be huge. The task of the business analyst is basically to break down the project into, workable small pieces, so that, you know, nothing is missed, and everything is worked on. It's like covering one item at a time. Okay. They don't try to cover everything, all the requirements in one go. If you're making a huge piece of software, okay, let's just say they are making this online login functionality, access to your bank account or something like that. Okay, so they're not gonna just say, okay, we need a website which does allow customers to log in and just make it. And it doesn't work like that. You have to have a lot of requirements, and each thing needs to be covered in step-by-step way. So obviously, let's say maybe they'll first set up the first page, okay, where you log in, okay. Then maybe they will set up the login functionality, or reverse. They may first set up the background and then go forward. So everything needs to be done step by step. It needs to be done on time and within a budget. Now, most of the time, what happens is, because if this whole process of development is not properly managed or organized, then the project might either fail, or it might always be challenged, and that does happen with a lot of projects. Now, in the past, there used to be a lot of project failures, and a lot of projects used to be used to have issues, bugs, or problems with the software or the service and stuff like that. Over the years, a lot of things have changed. There's been a lot of improvement because of the way development is managed. Of course, there's a lot of technology improvements. There's a lot of new software. There's of course huge teams, taking care of a lot of different things. So a lot of things have improved over the years, but that doesn't mean that projects don't fail, or they don't remain challenged. Okay, so basically it's the BA's task to try and make things as good as possible, as smooth as possible, for getting the project on track, and to cover all the requirements and scope of the project. When I'm saying scope of the project, basically they want to make sure that whatever they're trying to achieve as a goal is covered. It's not that they digress, or they do something else, or whatever they were trying to do is not actually working. So that's the job of the BA. All right. Now, this is some statistics from the Standish Group. Most of the people in the industry think this is a good benchmark. Some people may disagree, but anyways, only 34% of projects are actually successful on time and on budget. there are a lot of projects which fail. If you go look here, there are about 15% projects which fail. That's a big percentage of failure. They may be cancelled or incomplete because of a lot of different reasons. Okay, and of course there are projects. 51% projects are challenged, and they may there's 82% time overruns, as in they never finish the project on time. And you will see that actually when you go start working. In fact, you will see it firsthand that the project deadlines keep getting pushed. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes a year. The projects get extended all the time. And obviously, once you're going over time, you're going beyond the scheduled timeline or expected timeline of the project. Then obviously you will have cost overruns because now you're paying the staff to work an extra 6 months or extra 1 year or whatever. Maybe extra resources, maybe extra computers, maybe new computers, maybe some other stuff. So there'll be cost overruns. So there's about 43% cost overruns, and only 52% of features and functions are implemented in a lot of projects. So which means they're only implementing about half of the stuff they wanted to do. So that's why the business analyst is very important, because it's the business analyst task to identify all the stuff that needs to be done. Okay, so the BA basically functions as a facilitator, moderator. He or she has to be a skilled listener, a team leader, a visionary, be able to identify how things can be done better, improved, or maybe implementing new technologies, new stuff, simplifying processes, increasing efficiencies. So you have to be a visionary, you have to be a team leader, so that you can lead the team. You can talk to people, you can communicate what you're trying to achieve. You have to be able to listen like a listener, because if you don't listen, you're not a good listener, then you won't be able to understand what exactly the business requirements are. And of course, it's not that they just speak to you requirements. Of course, a lot of things will be documented, so you also have to be a good reader. That's not in there, but a lot of the stuff will be documented. So you have to be a good reader, a careful person who pays attention to detail, basically. Okay. You may also have to do project management. A lot of BAs end up doing a dual role of project manager and BA, especially if it's through the life of the project. And there's also times when a BA QA role is kind of combined. So it's kind of a hybrid role at times. And that's what we're going to target in this. So that opens, two doors for you actually, the BA door and the QA door. Okay, let's move forward. These are some of the titles for a business analyst as far as a job is concerned. And there may be different titles. Titles are irrelevant. Is the work that you're going to be do, because some of these titles may actually, for example, process manager may also be totally different. It might be a business process, and you're into IT side. So obviously you're not going to know how to drill or how to refine oil, or maybe do the transactions at a bank, whatever. So it really depends. So titles may be misleading, but these are some of the general titles for a business analyst. I did mention stakeholders in one of the slides. Now, who are the stakeholders? There can be different stakeholders for any project. And if you're coming from a business background, like in a MBA or a BBA or something like that, if you're taking some business classes, you probably understand who stakeholders are. Stakeholders are basically people who have some sort of interest or connection with, either the corporation or the product or whatever. Now, there are different types. There's government, there's employees, there's customers, there's vendors, there's creditors, investors. There may be others. Okay, and each of them may have a different relation or concern with the business. Okay, and over here in the slide it lists how they may be related to the business. You can read that. I'll post the slide on the portal. Okay, now what is a project? It's a project is basically it's something which is not there all the time. It's basically a time bound, goal specific, you can say multi-task endeavor. Okay. Now it's not permanent, obviously, because if it was permanent, then it's not a project. Okay. Then it's just a routine. Okay. So it's not a routine thing. A project is something done to achieve a certain task or a certain goal. Okay. And of course, there will be a team to achieve that. Types of projects could be different types of projects, like setting up a call center, maybe new software for the ATM, like I was talking, maybe new website to access your bank accounts, or maybe to book airline tickets, or maybe a desktop-based software, like for example Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. I mean, those are something you're very familiar with, but there are lots of different software like Photoshop. There's Adobe Reader. There's a lot of different MP3 players, uh, file compression tools, file uncompression tools, um, video tools, and so on. And then there's a lot of productivity tools, which you can use at work. For example, this video conferencing you're using, that's also basically a software product. Okay. There may be other projects which are non-IT, for example, building bridges, offices, uh, setting up furniture, whatever. We're not concerned about those projects, but just to tell you, those are also some type of projects. Okay. Now, there's two basic type of projects, like I just told you. There's business focused projects, and then there's IT focused projects. The business focused projects could be anything, like I just said, like maybe building a building or whatever. It could include getting furniture. It could also be stuff like setting up a call center, buying computers for the employees and stuff like that. Those could also be called projects, because like let's say network infrastructure, when you're setting up an office, let's say Cisco, the networking company, or let's say Cisco Foods, for example, out here in Houston. They, let's say, have a huge food business, and obviously they have a lot of employees, and they all use computers, and obviously they're all on the same network of the company. Now, how does the network function? Now, somebody, when they first set up the networks, it was basically a project. So they had to set up all the computers first. Then once the computers were set up, they had to set up switches and routers and hubs, um, network racks and stuff like that. Then set up the cables for that, then set up the internet connection, set up the infrastructure for that. So that basically was a huge project for them. Now that is a business focused project. That's not technically, well, you could call it a hardware IT project. Okay. And that also needs its own business analysis and its own testers and everything. We are trying to focus more on the software and the development side. Okay. So there's also information technology focused projects like a website portal. We already talked about, your bank account or airlines and stuff like that. Most of the time, these IT projects are either some kind of a software product, basically, or a service. Okay, and it could be, like I said, either from a business to a business, or from a business to a consumer. It could be end consumer, right? Like for example, you are an end consumer. Okay, if it wasn't you who was using the service, it was provided to a business, like let's say Yelp, for example. Yelp is a website which provides listing services to business. So basically, those businesses go online and register the business on Yelp, and they can register the business, provide information about their business, and then people can go and see about their business. So it's actually both. It allows access to both and services to both business users as well as end consumers. And so products may vary, services may vary. Most of the IT projects are basically some kind of product or service, and of course that includes mobile applications or stuff which happens on your cell phone. So those are also IT projects. All right. This is just a quick example of different project types. Okay, now there's two perspectives to projects. There's a project management perspective, and then there's the SDLC perspective. Now this is a very short description of the SDLC and the project management perspective. We'll go into the SDLC more in detail in the next class, but just to give you an idea, these are the different phases in the project management perspective, and these are the different phases in the excuse me, SDLC perspective. Okay, the steps are in this one. initiation, planning, execution, control, and closure. And those are self-explanatory, so I don't need to cover them at this point. We'll go in detail as we move on. And in SDLC, there'll be analysis, design, construction, testing, implementation, and post-implementation support. And I guess, Deepika, you might probably already know what SDLC is. All right. So I already covered this point in the previous slide. Just a repeat of that. Now, during the life of the project, the BA's role is basically during the analysis, but of course the BA is going to be there throughout the project. Okay, not from initiation to the design, to the construction, to the testing and analysis, closure, post implementation. Because the BA is basically responsible for obviously communicating the requirements, understanding the requirements, and communicating it to everybody. It's in the analysis phase where the BA is most active, because that's when the BA basically analyzes the needs of the business and starts setting up the requirements, usually in some kind of a tool. It could be as a simple tool as Microsoft Excel, or a more professional requirements tool. Okay. The BA may also lead during the testing phase, so that he or she can make sure that the product or service is working properly. Okay. Now, why do projects fail? And I guess we're coming very close to ending today's session. So why do projects fail? Most of the time, projects fail because there was incomplete requirements. That's about 13% of the time. That's the reason. Lack of user involvement, lack of resources, unrealistic expectations. Now, when I'm saying incomplete requirements, now that could be the fault of the BA, or that could be the fault of the business. Now, if let's say if the company itself doesn't know what they're trying to achieve, then what can you do? You can help them, you can guide them, you can be as a visionary, you can try and think forward and out of the box and say, okay, this needs to be done, that needs to be done, and so on, and tell them. Now, but that doesn't mean that they will still know exactly what they want to do. And there are situations, real situations like that, where requirements are not known, or they keep on changing during the life of the project. In fact, that's why you need change management. There may be lack of user involvement. If you're not engaging all the stakeholders in the development process, in the analysis process, and stuff like that. If you don't have the right feedback, and if not everybody is connected properly, if the project management is not being done properly, the team is not cohesive, then obviously you will have issues. Lack of resources, of course, budget is the main thing. If you don't have the money, how are you going to achieve stuff? You need to have all the additional resources, like human resources, for example. You need to have the right number of testers, right number of developers. You need to have a project manager and stuff like that. Of course, all of these also depend on the size of the project and the size of the corporation and what needs to be achieved. Projects may be as simple as making one small change, and then maybe only very small team of maybe 2 or 3 people, maybe 5 people, and then it could be something huge where you need like a team of 50 or 100 or even 200 people. Who knows, right? So you need to have the right resources, the right hardware, the right software, the right human capital, and the right licensing permits, whatever needs to be done. So unrealistic expectations, of course. If there's something which cannot be done and you're trying to do something like that, obviously that's not going to work. So that is also another reason for project failure. Of course, some of these reasons also contribute to challenge projects, like lack of user input, incomplete requirements and specifications, and changing requirements and specifications. Like I was saying, you will see a lot that the requirements are changing, and that makes things a little bit difficult for everybody. That makes things difficult for the business analysts. That makes things difficult for the developers. That makes things difficult for the testers. Let me give you an example. Let's say today they design some interface for the application, and right now it has maybe 2 functionalities, but then they either decide to drop off that functionality or add more functionality to that interface. So because the requirement has changed now, more work needs to be done, more time needs to be budgeted, more cost needs to be budgeted. So because of these things, there may be issues. It may happen that the project gets extended. Obviously, you obviously have cost overruns, and the more changes and the more issues you have with changing requirements, the more that will happen. All right. So this is just a pictorial view of what kind of I just spoke right now. There's some extra excuse me, points in there. Lack of handover, people change management, poor planning, ineffective communication, lack of formal project management processes, long time to delivery, poor risk management, team skills. If the team is not skilled enough, if you don't have good developers, if you don't have good testers, or if the BA is not good, or if the project manager doesn't know how to budget the time and the resources and everything, excuse me, then that also affects the project. The biggest main thing is poor or wrong requirements that affects project failures, and everything else is kind of a little bit less. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this first class. Okay, let me open up the floor now to you. And if you have anything to say or add, okay, let me actually mute you. Sorry. And I guess you can type in the chat window and we can go from there.